So as you're coming in, I want to introduce our next speaker, Kyle Boss, who is a software engineer with Tinder. And Kyle is a passionate speaker and leader and an entrepreneur. He has a very infectious, positive attitude. He is a lot of fun to talk with. So if you have a chance to come and catch him afterwards, I encourage you to do that. Also, a fun fact about Kyle is that he once hiked 500 miles across Spain, and he doesn't really even like hiking. So you'll have to ask him about that as well. So with that, I just want to say a warm welcome to Kyle Boss.
Hi, thank you. So when we think of Tinder, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's usually the mobile app, the dating app that is on your mobile device, right? Well, over the last few years, us web developers, we've noticed this trend of changing mobile devices and bringing all the great things from mobile and all the great things of web and combining them together to make something that we lovingly call progressive web apps, right? Well, recently, Tinder did just that. We took our mobile app and we brought it to Tinder.com. And so now from the comfort of your keyboard at your home, you can continue to swipe, find matches, and chat. And so you could do that from your living room, or why not, at work. And we don't judge. We've all been there. 3 p.m. on a Friday, and you're talking to this guy with 2 cute corgis, and then you feel like your boss is coming behind you from the hallway. We got your back. We provide a work mode button, so if you do find yourself in that situation, we'll throw spreadsheets at your screen, and your boss never has to know. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because Tinder is taking a deep dive into web, and we're hiring. We're hiring for web developers, web designers, PMs. And so if throughout this talk you find yourself really excited or saying, hey, I want to work on these projects too, I want to hear from you. Feel free to send me your resume, come talk to me after, DM me, and I'll put all of my contact info at the end, okay? So, who am I? I'm Kyle Boss, and I'm a web developer at Tinder. I moved here to the acting capital of the world from UC Berkeley to fulfill my dreams of paying off my college debt. And I've had a few jobs here. I went to a startup that one day just found out we had no finances and we all got laid off. And then the next week, I found myself day one at my current position at Tinder. And my boss, he came into this meeting room at my new hire orientation. He's like, hi, I'm Eric. I'm like, hi, I'm Kyle. And he said, come here, I'm gonna show you your first project. He sat me down and he said, Kyle, your first project is gonna be working on a lifestyle blog called Swipe Life. And it's not public yet, it's not live, it's about to be launched in a few weeks. And it's gonna navigate, or help our members navigate this online dating life, right? And then he said, it's in WordPress. And immediately, my mind started going 100 miles per hour, like, oh my God, I've never used WordPress. Doesn't that mean I have to use PHP, right? I thought my interview last week was in React. What did I miss? And I think he saw this freak out on my face. And he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We are using WordPress because it empowers our writers to write articles efficiently and effectively. Our writers have probably used WordPress in the past, right? And it gives them, as Kyle said, the power and the freedom to be able to do what they need to do, and that's create awesome content. So of course we're gonna let them use WordPress. However, we're also going to empower our engineers. And our engineers here at Tinder, we like to use React. We have several other React projects, including that Tinder.com PWA. And at this point, making a new React app is plug and play. It's in our existing architecture, it's in our ecosystem. But it would be awesome if we could somehow combine the two. If we could combine WordPress and React and create this marriage of sorts, that would be awesome. And I didn't know how we were gonna do that. So I get my permissions, I pulled down this GitHub repo for the first time of Swipe Life. And this is the first time that I saw the solution that we were using. You might have heard of it. We were using Gatsby. And what is Gatsby? Gatsby is a static website generator, but it does so much more. What I mean by that is it's going to act as our bridge. It's going to act as our bridge between WordPress and React. Now, it does this with a partner in crime, a plugin called Gatsby Source WordPress. And for those of you who might be new to Gatsby, all a plugin is a node module. So you install it with NPM or Yarn. And whatever Gatsby plugins you install that you want to use, you need to add it to a file called Gatsby config. And Gatsby Source WordPress has 8 or 9 options. They're all relatively simple, straightforward, or using HTTP or HTTPS, for example. But the most important one is setting the base URL, because your WordPress is going to live on a server somewhere on the internet. It's going to have an IP address, or if it's lucky enough, you bought it a domain name for itself, and you're going to put that domain or IP address here in base URL. And that provides you with a lot of magic. Because when you run Gatsby build, what Gatsby will do is it will scavenge your WordPress API. It will hit every single endpoint that it can and grab all the information. And one thing that I didn't realize when I started working with WordPress at Tinder is that WordPress gives you an API out of the box. It's pretty RESTful, and it's pretty robust. So if you go to this path/posts, you'll get all of your public posts in an API, in a JSON format. If you go to /categories/tags, same thing, right? So what Gatsby does is it hits every single one of these endpoints. It's like Ariana Grande is, I want it, I got it. You like my posts? Gee, thanks, just fetched it. And once it grabs everything from your WordPress API, it's going to stuff it into a GraphQL service, right? It's going to stuff into a GraphQL service that's local on your machine, and it's going to act as a backup or a copy, if you will, of your WordPress. And this is really important because your React app is going to query all the information that it needs from this GraphQL service and display it on the front end, okay? Now, let's take a quick code example, look at this. So this is what post component looks like. It's very simple. It's just displaying title and content. And it's displaying this information from an object called data. And that data object is passed in from the props. How do we know what to pass data? How do we know what information data has inside of it? Well, we use a GraphQL query. And for those of you who are new to GraphQL, this is what a query generally looks like. We have a WordPress post, and we're grabbing a very specific WordPress post. We're grabbing it with a very specific ID, and this ID is in the context passed in a Gatsby node, from Gatsby node. And we're displaying the title and the content, but we could grab so much more. We could grab categories, tags, and you could play around with these queries by using the graphical tool that Gatsby provides you out of the box. When you run Gatsby develop, if you go to /___ graphical, you'll get this GraphQL tool. So you can play around with these queries and see exactly what you're going to get. So on build time, Gatsby is going to execute every single one of these queries. It's going to take the results and pass them to the components that need them. And when it's done with that, you're going to have a huge React app. And Gatsby's going to go one step further, and it's going to take your React app, chop it up into a bunch of small HTML and JavaScript files, and smush it into a directory called public. And you can do whatever you want. This is your static website. You could push it to S3. I know a lot of people here might use Netlify, or I know the Gatsby docs use Surge, but you could post it to whatever static website you want and show the world what you just created, okay? So we covered a lot in the last 5 minutes. Let's take a step back. What did we just do? So we created a copy of WordPress, put it on your local machine, and then we used React to act as a front end for your WordPress. All of this without touching PHP. This is the elegance, this is the beauty of Gatsby for us at Tinder. We do add optimizations, customizations, so we've added a little bit of PHP. So it would be a misnomer to say no PHP, but it is very minimal. Now, knowing this, we put our heads down for the next few weeks, and we worked. Yes. Anyone else watch RuPaul? Has anyone else seen the AJ and the Queen show? Is it good? Yes. Yes? Oh my God. I've been seeing the billboards for it out here in WeHo, and I'm like, is it good? It takes a lot for me to watch a Netflix show, but I'll give it a try. Thank you, Grant. So we worked for weeks on end, and on October 1st, 2018, we went live with Swipe Life. And it was crazy because we had media posts going on. We told media that, hey, we're gonna come out with Swipe Life. And there was a lot of buzz generated about it on Twitter. And it's really exciting. The Swipe Life mantra is we are basically navigating our members through this online dating life. And our content is progressive, it's fun, it's edgy. And it definitely represents Gen Z, Generation Z, because they represent more than 50% at this time of our user base. So it's really fun content. And we don't just have articles, we have videos. J-Lo once came in. She did awesome last night, by the way. Oh my gosh. J-Lo came in, and she helped our users navigate this online dating world. But my favorite episode was when Jonathan Van Ness and Antonio from Queer Eye, they came in to help dispel some absolutely terrible dating advice. Take a look.
Do some makeup, but don't go over the top. Touch up your roots. Blow dry your hair instead of ironing them poker straight.
If a man ever had the nerve to turn me down based off of the volume or lack thereof in my hair, I wish he would.
Get some Spanx or shapewear that makes you look more shapely in pictures. Wear some heels, because even if it's a portrait where you're just seeing this much, when you wear heels, your weight goes on your toes and it kind of elongates your whole body, even for a close-up. Look straight into the camera. When somebody's looking at your picture, it gives a feeling that you're looking straight into someone's eyes.
The last one was right. Everything else before that, like if you want a miserable relationship, listen to what she said. No, that was outrageous.
That was a lot.
That was like Tinder in 1943. It's like, make sure your slippers are by the front door for him, and make sure you don't talk too much.
Make sure that you
don't
look
ask him
really shapely.
questions.
What if you're shaped like a rectangle? Embrace the rectangle.
She did hit the nail on the head with the photos, but up until then, it was all wrong.
Yes. So, by the way, everyone watching on YouTube, yesterday was the Super Bowl. That was the J-Lo thing. So she did epic last night. Oh my God. Anyway, so yes, this is the content that's on Swipe Life. If you want to check out more, feel free to go to our Gatsby site at swipelife.tinder.com. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to all the engineers that worked on this. We have 3 engineering offices, one here in LA, one up in San Francisco, another in Palo Alto, and they all did an amazing job. And also the writing team, we have a writing office out in New York, and they are absolutely amazing. They come out with 2 articles every day, including weekends, including these videos. So yeah, credit where credit is due. They did an amazing job. So Swipe Life went really well for months and months and months. No downtime. I think we have all of our 9s in our SLA, #blessed. And then in June of 2019, something really interesting happened on the internet. I want to tell this story if that's okay. So one day I was reading this news article on one of those local news websites that, you know, the ones that like throw ads at your screen, right? And when I was reading this article, the white background all of a sudden turned into a succulent. And I'm trying to read this news article with a succulent as the background. I'm like, what in tarnation is going on? And so I went to another news site, another local news site, and they were already a succulent. Like they also had a succulent. Totally different news website, same succulent. TechCrunch, succulent. 9to5Mac had a succulent. And I went to Twitter, and of course, this succulent thing was trending. Kyle Frost said it best. It was a good day for succulents, to say the least. And #WordPress. Why #WordPress? If you have used WordPress recently, you know what this picture is. It is the default theme for WordPress. And that day, there was an outage. And it reverted everyone's themes to the default theme. This was in June, and my boss was probably writing my mid-year review at that very moment. And all I could think about was Swipe Life is probably down right now, OMG. It's a PWA, so I'm refreshing it, and I'm like, it still works. Is it because it's a PWA, or is it actually working? And fun thing. Went to incognito mode on someone else's machine that never have went to Swipe Life, and I see this. No succulent. We survived succulent day. But what happened? Actually, I did get a lot of Slack notifications when I came into work from our writers. We do a lot of customizations, as I said, for our WordPress to make the place where they make posts very customized to Swipe Life. So we've added a description box. We use a lot of ACF, which, by the way, if you're using WordPress, you might want to look into something called advanced custom fields. Like, put a tab on that thought, and if you ever run into this, you'll be like, oh yeah, advanced custom fields. And all those were gone. Our writers said, we can't write descriptions anymore, we can't publish, and so for all intents and purposes, Swipe Life was up, people could read it, but we couldn't create any more content via WordPress. WordPress was down, but our React app was up. So what's interesting here is our React app is still up, it's still independent from WordPress. And for those of you who are keeping score, you might be thinking, what about all those API calls that we made earlier? I thought we were dependent on WordPress. Well, actually, we're dependent on WordPress. You're totally right. We are dependent on WordPress, but we're dependent on WordPress on build time, okay? Once Gatsby chops up your React app into a bunch of HTML and JavaScript files and stuffs it into public, you're free, independent from your CMS, and in our case, WordPress. Now, on runtime, we're not hitting WordPress at all. It's a static website. So that's why we're still up, and I got to sit down and write a nice email to all of the engineers and all the folks at Swipe Life, hey, this is what's going down in the internet community, and we survived the succulent apocalypse. So yes, Gatsby really helped us out there, the way that we can use WordPress headlessly and have a static website. One interesting thing happens when you use Gatsby with WordPress. It's kind of like we keep a secret from WordPress. We're saying, hey, we're using a different front end, but we never tell WordPress that we're using that front end. So something interesting happens when we don't tell WordPress. I mean, by the way, you can't really tell WordPress. Like, WordPress is still going to give you the front end that it has, but this preview button doesn't work out of the box. So one interesting thing that we had to do was open up the PHP code just a little bit and change something called a filter. And we pointed this preview button towards our Gatsby site to make live authenticated API calls to WordPress. Why is this important? This is important because writers love previewing changes. And if we don't give them the ability to preview, it's kind of like debugging in production, right? They want to be able to see that their articles are coming out, and they're coming out well before going live. So this is a completely solvable problem. It's something that if you do need help, feel free to reach out. But it's something that you want to prepare for when you're divvying up story points and planning. You're going to want to create a preview feature with using WordPress, okay? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Now, oh man, our time is almost up. I'm so thankful, by the way, that I got to meet everyone before the conference. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, by the way, feel free to come and talk to me. I love chatting anything about JavaScript or that 500-mile hike. It's called the Camino de Santiago. It's crazy. Anyway, so I want to tell one last personal story about Gatsby before I go. And it's really touching and it's really fun. So one day at Tinder, we found out that something was missing in the world. And we want to do something about it. Take a look.
Shadow to shadow, slow through the neon glow. I follow you 'cause I don't know nobody loves you like I love you. Nobody loves you like I do. Nobody loves you like I love you. Nobody loves you like I do.
Thank you. So we realized that the world was missing interracial couple emojis. Those hand-holding emojis only had one skin tone. And we wanted to do something about it. So that day, Tinder created a change.org petition, and something beautiful happened. Instantly, we noticed it was gaining traction. People were signing, and it was being spread across the globe. And at Tinder, we realized we wanted to do something a little bit more professional and all the more personal than one of those standard petition websites, right? So we decided we wanted to create a viral landing page for this movement. And a viral landing page for us consisted of two things. We wanted to develop it incredibly fast. Why is that? Well, we wanted to meet the movement where the movement was at. We wanted to create this website and have it deployed and put on our Twitter page and reach the front page of Reddit before the movement moved on, right? So we want to be sure that we can get it out within a week or 2 weeks max. Now, does that mean hiring more devs? Usually no. Usually that's not how you get things out faster. For us, we decided we just wanted to stick with what we know, and that was React. As we said, it's a plug-and-play ecosystem at this point for us at Tinder. So we knew if we could use React, use something that we were comfortable with, we could develop this fast. The second thing to create a viral landing page is we want to be sure that it was extremely scalable. We want to be sure that when it does reach that front page of Reddit, or if it is on a Super Bowl commercial, we want to make sure that it wouldn't get the Reddit hug of death, or I guess the Super Bowl hug of death. We didn't want to be DDoSed, right? So we want to be incredibly scalable. And for us, we thought, well, what's more scalable than going serverless, right? Let someone else configure the servers. And also, honestly, serverless a lot of times is cheaper because you have the economies of scale working for you below the curtain. So, gosh, I wish there was something out there that could help us code something with React that creates static websites. Gatsby. That's where Gatsby came into play. So we used Gatsby, and I want to give a huge shout out to one of our engineers, Brendan Todaro. He used Gatsby and within a week created something beautiful. So he worked for days and days, and then at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel was this beautiful Gatsby site. This for the Represent Love movement. And once this website went out, this Gatsby site, the word spread like wildfire. People were chatting about it on Twitter. We took a full page out of the New York Times to explain this Represent Love movement. And even if it was just for a moment, it felt like the whole world was united on a cause, on a movement, on knowing that these emojis needed to be introduced to the world. And one beautiful thing, too, that came out of this, has anyone heard of the Webby Awards? Oh, cool. I see a lot of nods. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, they are like an awards program, kind of like the Grammys, but for websites. And they're kind of fun because when you're giving your acceptance speech, you're only allowed to give 5 words, so the mic doesn't like drop to the ground after a minute. So we ended up winning a Webby Award for this, the whole movement, for the campaign. And a few weeks passed by after this award, and Unicode gave us a call. The Unicode Consortium said that the interracial couple emoji was accepted into the Unicode set. And thank you. And what's special is that no matter how much traffic hit this website, it never faltered. It was serverless. It was static. It was generated by Gatsby. And so Gatsby played a really fun role in this bigger movement. So, and I have an addendum. This weekend, Apple tweeted this. So if you have the latest version of iOS or the latest version of Android, you have the interracial couple emojis in your pocket. Just find that hand-holding emoji and give it a long press, and now you have them. So if you want to check out more about this movement, feel free to check out our Gatsby site at emoji.tinder.com. And also, I want to give a huge thank you. I really appreciate getting to know each and every one of you. And if I haven't talked to you yet, feel free to chat. I'll be here all day. And also, if these Gatsby sites look like something you'd be interested in working on, feel free to send me your resume. My email is kyle.boss@gotinder.com. And feel free to send me a DM, like a Kyle Boss. It's a really bad, but maybe really good joke. And yeah, and I want to leave everyone with one thing. Kyle mentioned providing people with power and freedom, right? And using Gatsby for things like Swipe Life gave power and freedom to our writers because they were able to use the tools that they know best, that are made for them. And it also gave power and freedom to the developers because we were able to also use the tools that make sense for us. And all this took was a little bit of innovation, right? So let's keep innovating. Thank you.